Okay, and so we are live. So, Nancy, thank you so much for joining me. I haven't done a live since I think the last time we did it. So, anyway, guys, welcome to the JPES Talks. I'm going to call it the tutoring show today. So, some of you guys know I am an English language arts tutor. I help with creative writing, I help with grammar, and I also teach homeschooling students in that area. So, I've been working with middle and high schoolers for a while, and now I just really love most of them. Most of my clients are online, so we're sort of used to this world of online teaching and tutoring, and it does work when done creatively and correctly. So today I'm going to let my friend Nancy introduce herself. Nancy lives in Florida, and we're talking like she's in the room with me. So, hey, Nancy.
Hey, Jess, thanks for having me on. I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to be talking about what we do again and how we can help our community of children who are looking for awesome tutors.
So, tell me about what do you do if a parent shows up and they're like mildly curious about getting a tutor? What are the first things you tell them about yourself? Okay, because let's say they want to know about you first. What do you tell them?
Right. So I'm a reading tutor and I specialize in helping kids, struggling readers who are really, kind of missing some pieces in their, like the Jenga game of putting words and sentences and learning to read together. So parents come to me usually like when their child has maybe a little bit of a problem with reading. And I am here to ease the parent's mind, honestly, because oftentimes it's just who is in front of your child that makes all the difference, especially when it comes to one-to-one learning. So I'm a one-to-one reading teacher.
Okay, great. Because would you say that some students just never really learn well in groups, especially when some of those students are either really high achieving, like far ahead, or perhaps really far behind?
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of students who just need a lot of, just like that. They can kind of sit back in class, especially when you go to a big school, have a class with 20
Mhm.
kids in it. And, your child's sitting there and they're thinking, okay, I think I can make it look like I understand what I'm doing. And it's kind of easy to move through that way. But to the nitty gritty of reading, test taking, really understanding how to succeed academically, that can fall you can fall through the cracks. So that kind of shows up in different ways because parents might see their child getting frustrated with
Yep.
reading, or maybe they don't want to do their homework, or maybe the parent might see their child say or hear their child say things like, "Oh, I can't read, I can't do this," and that would be a great time to put up those red flags as a parent and say, "Hey, maybe I need some extra help here."
Yeah, because it is heartbreaking when that child makes comments like, "Oh, I hate reading," or "It's
Yeah.
too hard." It's like, well, no, actually, you hate being embarrassed and feeling left behind. That's what you actually
Yeah.
hate. You probably don't hate reading, or you're just you won't once we find the right thing for you to read. Like students like all kinds of things. They like reading fan fiction. They like, the little book series, Harry Potter, Hunger Games. I'm thinking of what I still like, and there's always more coming out. That's Barnes and Noble is still around, and plus a lot of people read online on their Kindle, all that good stuff. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna do like a little, not quite a skit. I won't go too crazy, but I'm going to read some questions that a parent might ask, and so Nancy's gonna comment on it first as a tutor. And then I'm also going to chime in a little bit. So I'm going to change my appearance drastically.
I
Okay,
won't
can you
look.
tell? I'm changed. Now I am a parent. Okay, I'm the parent, and perhaps I have a child of, let's say, what ages are you focusing most on right now, Nancy?
I focus on K through 8.
Okay, so let's say that's what, a lot of parents have. They might have one or two children in that age range. So if a parent says something like this, Miss Nancy, my child is interested in a specific area, such as fiction writing or science. Okay. If I have a child that has an interest in those areas, should I bother to hire a tutor for them to help them do more with those areas?
Well, because you are a parent who obviously you are very involved with your child's education, I can see that you're looking to make your child your to develop their natural interests that they already have. So yes, coming to me would be the first step. And I would say, hey, I know awesome tutors. I teach reading. I know awesome tutors who teach writing. So if you wanted to, develop that interest of your child, I could put you into contact with JPES.
Yes.
Or, if you need some help with science, I definitely know some great tutors that can help. Because being in our community, we really do know each other in terms of who our online tutor community is, especially when we go through the program, just like Jumpstart that we went through, and learning about, how to be the really most effective teachers we could possibly be online. And I love it when people come to me and they ask, like, I get a lot of requests for math tutoring. And I love tutoring math, but often my schedule can't accept that. So I have some fantastic online math tutors that I send those students to, and I have full confidence because I know these other tutors.
Yes. So I liked your answer.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So I think what a parent might also, then they would get into the specifics of, saying things like, I want to help my child in the area of science, but, I have a construction company, or I work all day. I don't have time to get them, sometimes parents will maybe they're tempted to either just ignore their child's interest, or maybe just get distracted because they themselves don't have that knowledge. And so when they don't know how to do something, it might be not that parents do that, but some parents might be like, well, shoot, I guess my kid's not going to know anything about technology because I'm not techie, or, I don't know there's people who can tutor coding. There's people who do really well with the upper level math, and the parents will benefit by hiring a tutor to help that kid with that specific need. I think that specific, I still can't say that word. Okay.
You did it.
Next question. I'm Jessica again, and I'm about to transform into a parent. You ready? Here we go.
I'm ready.
Right. Serious question this time. Miss Nancy, my child is disinterested in school and is doing poorly in most of their classes. Should I hire a tutor? What do you think?
So, Jess, you cut out a little bit right there when you were reading.
That. Okay, you want me to read it again?
Definitely, because I think our viewers want to hear what you're asking.
Okay, so the question was, so as a parent, I'm coming to you as a parent, just, got a lot of issues with the child. And they say, my child is disinterested in school and is doing poorly in most of their classes. Should I hire a tutor?
Right. Isn't that a lot of times what we get with parents? Parents will come to tutors and say, hey, my child is not doing well in school. This is the reason why I need to hire a tutor, right? So I say, first of all, yes, absolutely. If your child is doing poorly in school, we need to get to the base of what is the real issue here. I mean, oftentimes for me as a reading teacher, I'll see the phonics piece of it. So the next question I have for you as a parent is, in what particular subject is your child struggling?
Yeah. And so let's just pretend like I'm parent again, and I say, well, they're struggling in algebra 1. They did so well. They did so well in middle school, and it's 8th grade. Let's say they were in advanced algebra 1, but now they're struggling, and they tell me they hate school and they don't want to do it. What do you recommend?
Yeah, well, first of all, it must break your heart as a parent to hear your child say something like that, because you think they're doing fantastic in algebra 1 and they get thrown into high school and it's a whole new ball game, right? So I really empathize with those parents, because it's an academic journey. So when your child is saying something like that, I mean, it takes a lot for the student to buy in, right? So you definitely want the child to realize, yes, I have a problem. I need some help, right? And so I always give hope to parents, because it's never a lost cause. It's always like, let's just see where we are. We can start where your child is and then build them up, because there might be some little skills in there that they're missing that a really, skilled teacher is going to see that right away, especially in the advanced math.
Yeah. So turning back into myself for a moment, the thing is, we typically, I'd say a lot of my students, and probably yours too, have struggled with something, some academic area, and you'll know it too because they're taking their time, and then you realize, oh gosh, they really do need help. This isn't just homework help. They really need that support, and somebody who is used to this content area. But the other side of the coin is that we have often, especially in the classroom, I encounter students who really had no interest in school, that didn't want to be there. They may have had other issues going on in their lives. So those are kids that if you can actually reach them and have them improve in some way, that is awesome. But we do have to be honest with parents and say, I will do as much as I possibly can to help your child. But if your child shows up, they want to turn their camera off, they're late, or they disappear, or they're just not doing what you tell them,
Mhm.
then clearly that the child just isn't ready. That they've got to overcome some mental obstacles. So that's something that you don't always know until you get involved with the child. Sometimes it's a face. Sometimes, like, I've had that happen before where I'm like, hey, why is so and so, you're kind of dragging, what's going on, do you want to talk about it, because you're not being yourself, let's not waste our time, what can we do, because we want to get you to where you need to go, and we're not here to just waste time. So
Right.
that's the thing, like the child, I think, and perhaps you agree, the child needs to meet you halfway, you think?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Like you can't, like we always say, like you can't just throw money at a problem. There has to be some sort of results, right? There has to be
Mhm.
a buy-in on both ways. And that's where setting goals with the student, like we talked about last time we were doing our YouTube, we talked about like
Yeah.
how to set goals with kids and then showing the baseline. So for example, when I take on a student, I always provide a free reading assessment. So the parent I'll assess your child, and then the parent will get a full analysis of everything that I assessed your child with. And what that does is give the parent reassurance, like, yeah, I actually see what Nancy sees. So I understand now where she wants to move to. And we set goals, but things are always moving, things are always shifting. Even the most skilled tutors still see tears, and
Mhm.
tears on the other end, on the other side for the child is like that. I say like sweat is like uh, weakness leaving the body. So
Oh yeah.
sometimes when we see
Mhm.
tears, it's like that frustration is leaving the body.
Yeah.
So, right, because like it's when we work with kids, we don't make them cry. It's not That's not what's happening. It's the physical reaction sometimes, like, wow, you are really showing me exactly what I need to work on right now. And it can be very confronting for some kids. And
Mhm.
then it's also a breakthrough. So it's actually the beauty of being a human, right? So we can discover those things. And I really see it with kids too, because they're just like us. They have the same kind of feelings as adults.
And it's no longer a stigma to hire a tutor, at least not with more and more people realizing that this is the information age. We have moved way beyond the industrial age where you really are having to physically work to get a job. Now it's like you can go online and teach yourself, but yet we're still legally required to get this education, and there's so many standards that have to be met. So it just kids don't always, I think parents don't always know how to help. So as long as they're willing to learn something, like, hey, there's a benefit to this. If you want independence, if you want to have the capability to do something without permission all the time, you have to work toward it. And some of that's just getting through these classes.
100%.
The next question I wanted to have as a parent, this is what another parent might say. My child says he or she needs more time to understand the class content, but there are too many students demanding the teacher's attention. Should I hire a tutor?
Right? Yeah, that sounds, maybe we could dig a little bit deeper. How are we doing there in those classes that are really big? How are all the
Mhm.
kids doing? How are we doing right now at this very time in our lives? Like in the pandemic, with the pandemic, and this past year has been just so crazy, and we've all been learning online. And it's so easy to feel like our kids are going to fall through the cracks, and they are in a big class, right? So, yes, I think the fact is with parents, and I really am talking to y'all parents, that if you thought your child needs a tutor, the answer is yes. And then at that point, when you find that your child has created and made the goals that they wanted to set, then maybe it's time to back off for having a tutor. But we are really just a part of your academic team. We are really there to support and to strengthen. It's always in a place of growth for us, for tutors. So would that be something that a parent would want to hear? I mean, that's a kind of reassurance, right? It's a
I
reassuring
I
thing.
like the part you said about we're all on the team of the student. Like this is a team where the parent really has a lot of say so when they're young like that, when they're 18 and younger. So if they can hire another adult to help out, then that other adult is a trusted person that will come in and help get the results. Not just, I mean, sometimes it might be a one-time thing. Maybe it's just for ACT, maybe it's just for a few research papers, but still that's somebody coming in and the parent has decided that.
Yes.
Part of that question that said, when definitely in years past when nobody else was in hybrid, everyone was in the classroom, your average public classroom, well, it's grown, right? It grows and grows. And then, and I've seen this myself, and definitely my husband's seen this as a teacher. You've got 30 to 35 kids in certain classes, not every class, but that just takes away from individual time with the child. It's hard on the teacher. It's rough. So maybe it's okay for a student who's very social, who can focus, who gets things the first time or the second time. I don't know about you, but if there was a new concept being taught, I probably wasn't getting it right away.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't always want to ask for help too. So sometimes kids get really scary, or they get scared. They get scared because they're like, it is extremely intimidating to raise that hand and say, can you clarify that again? No, they'll do that sometimes because they're not listening, but other times it's like, once you fall behind, you can continue to fall behind.
Yep.
And so when things get really out of hand, a one-on-one teacher should, at best case scenario, a one-on-one teacher is able to come in and work with them individually. And that takes some pressure off the kid having to ask questions all the time, or maybe that teacher, they cannot always help enough, maybe like one-on-one after school. That's very difficult.
Yep.
So that's what I would say. It's like, hey, if your child's falling far behind due to a large class size or to some of its fear, a tutor, an outside tutor, can help that. And
Yeah. And think of it this way too, like with the brain, when we're working online, we're talking about what's happening in the brain. We can't really see it. And so if your child is in physical education class with 35 people and you're trying to learn the rules of basketball or kickball, and you're all playing a big game together, and if your child, or maybe they're playing soccer, and you want your child to get better at it, or they express interest in it, or they can tell, maybe, hey, I know I can do better with this. You could always hire a private trainer to help your child. So that would be a physical aspect, right? So imagine what the results you get working out with a personal trainer on a daily basis, and then working with a tutor on a daily, or maybe 3 times, twice weekly basis, or even once.
That's a good point. I've met students who say, yeah, they have agility training, which I never heard of. I'm like, oh, we didn't do that in our school. I guess we weren't that competitive. Like, they'll have club soccer, and then there's at least up until the past year, it was very easy to over involve the child. And then it's like, oh, well, they stay up till midnight doing homework, maybe. And they're just, sometimes it's like, I can't, they're overwhelmed. So, but it's especially overwhelming for a student who's struggling in an area. So that's what I love about being able to help one-on-one. I'm like, now I can actually do that as a teacher, instead of just wishing I had more time, but having to balance, 100 and something kids, and take attendance and plan lessons and deal with behavior problems all the time, just all of that.
Especially as you keep working with each other too. I mean, you get right into those little places that are, it's right, you meet the child right where they need to work at. So you get right into those places. There's no more fluff. Like, you don't have to worry about the stuff that they already know. We're working on building on those pieces. So that's the cool part about it, right?
One of my students who actually have at 5:30 today, but he said, I said, how's that book going that you're reading in class? Because we do strictly writing with him. And he's like, well, he said, it's just going slowly. And I'm like, what do you mean? He just said, it takes a long time to read it. And I thought, oh yeah, I remember how you have class for 45 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on the school. And you sit there and read out loud, and then you have to stop and talk about it, right? Which I like doing. But as a kid, you're like, oh, come on, I want to keep going. That's how I
Yeah.
felt. And
Yeah.
then you're like, we are still reading, the Number of the Stars, and it's been a month and a half. And then you just think about how many books you can get through privately and on your own. It's some kids need that extra stuff. Let's see, another question I have, and I just talked to someone today about this. Okay, parent time. Here we go. I say as a parent that my child needs help with homework because I don't have the expertise or mental energy to help them. So, should I hire a tutor?
Outsource your tutor. Yes, outsource some time. Take some time off of your hands in the capable hands of a tutor. Because it's not just homework at that point, it becomes skill building as well, because tutors will take exactly what your child is working on and then push in all the other pieces that they need to be working on as well at the same time. What I love about it is that being a tutor and being online is that we are right there and right now. So there's no kind of wasting time about, oh, I don't know, we should do this or do that. No, we're going to get your homework done and then also slide in all these little extra great bits of learning for them. So yeah, you could use a tutor.
So is this a good investment? I'm throwing this in I'm throwing this in. So how will I know if this is a good investment? Because I know like I'm willing to pay for it, but over time, I'm just, nervous about, prices. What do you have to say about that? Like, how can you guarantee my child will have significant growth over a course of time?
Right. So you have a few questions in there. One is it a good investment? And the other one is your child, are we going to see significant growth? Right. So the first part is it an investment? Yes. Just like as exercising for 45 minutes every day would be a little tiny bit of an investment of time for that greater good of your whole body. So that little bit of extra time invested now pays off in spades in the long run, because you're taking care of all the bad habits, I'll call them problems, but they're just maybe the gaps in the learning that cause the problem in the future learning because it's not built on a strong foundation. So that is definitely an investment in time. I mean, think about it too. If you don't take care of your body now, down the road, you're going to have to spend it either spend the time little bit by bit now, or down the road, it's going to take up a lot of your time.
That makes sense.
Right. So same thing too. Like if you're waiting till your child is in 5th grade and they've been couple years behind in their reading, and the teacher's been telling you this is a great time to invest the money now, especially before middle school, to get your child up to grade level. And so in terms of guaranteeing that you're going to see the goals get reached, I can tell you that I am able to close the reading gap in a certain amount of weeks for your child. So if your child's a year behind, it would take me about 12 hours to bring them up to that point, usually. And I say this because of evidence of students that I've had in the past. So every child is totally different. And what I will guarantee is that we'll have an experience, and there will be support, and there will be growth, because the thing is, if you have like 3 years of school to work on, you're still going to have to work, a little bit more to get up to where you want to be. So yes, I say with the hard work, I can guarantee an improvement. I can guarantee it.
Okay, yeah, I kind of threw that last one in as a curveball, but I knew you could answer it just because we've talked so much about that before.
So much, right?
So we can stay on another couple of minutes, maybe 2 to 5 minutes, and we'll end, because I know we have students. But there are just there's so much that sometimes parents don't even ask. They just need. There's a need. They want somebody. And I think what is a good way to provide information to parents quickly and easily? Because sometimes I think that I have something for parents, and then I say, oh well. Sometimes it's like, what is the best way to show them like evidence of what you've done? I guess. What are you doing right now for that?
Sure. For evidence, you can check out all my 5-star reviews on Google and Yelp and Facebook. Um, that's a great place to start. Also, you have to get a general vibe from your tutor. So with my parents, they do get a free reading assessment. So when I meet with the parent, they know exactly that I am 100% focused on their child, and I'm 100%, this is what I see and this is what I can do. And if we can meet eye to eye, right? It's kind of like a like you don't really kind of get the warm and fuzzy walking into a Sylvan Learning Center, right?
Mm.
And but when you come to approach a private tutor, you are going to get that kind of attention and that like kind of like that vibe, right? You're going to be in good hands and you'll know right away. So I love to have like my parents with have their students without the headphones, at least just for the first couple of times while we're working together, so the parents can hear how I'm working with your child, right? And then I love for the kids to have their headsets put on afterwards because it's easier for me to hear and to really work with them because we are working so close together in phonics and the way words sound.
Okay, I've never thought about the headset thing because I just use my microphone. So yeah, I never thought of that. Sometimes when you're teaching, you think, okay, I know the parent can hear me, or sometimes they'll walk past or they're in the room, and you're like, okay, I want them to see that we're definitely working, and
Mm-hmm.
it's always it's like it's a different feeling from when the principal would come in and observe me in the classroom. You're like, they don't always really care what you're teaching. It's just like, are you meeting? I don't know. They had
The
all their own.
standards, are they on the board?
Yeah. And then the parents like, and then sometimes it's easier. The parent doesn't really know. They're just like, yes, please just help them. Just help them do it. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
Sometimes it's
But
like an out of body experience. Like when I'm in the zone, when I'm in the zone with teaching, I have like maybe a 45-minute lesson and it is just me and the student, like me and your child, right? Because
mhm.
it's amazing. It's magical. I always call it magic.
It's sometimes I'll look, and I love it when the student says, "Oh, it's already 5 o'clock," like almost time. And I'm like, okay, good. That means that we kept it going, and they were enjoying themselves. They were occupied. They were engaged, because it's never good when you're just like, oh, in school, think of how many times you stared at that clock. You
Yep.
know,
And with private tutoring, it happens every day. For me, I always get it. I can't believe we're done. The student, the
I'm like,
students.
wait a minute, I wanted to cover this, and oh, I guess we're not going to get to it, because usually it goes. In fact, every time it goes slower,
Yeah.
because I guess you're just doing more. So
I wanted to mention one more thing too for
okay.
parents who are wondering about like how to find a tutor. Maybe don't want to go to the Sylvan Learning Center. Maybe if you're looking for an elementary or middle school reading teacher, you can go to ces.school. You can go to my website. You're looking for writing, go to jpestutoring.com. Looking for upper level literature. She's amazing. Jess, you really are. Like you really know your craft. And it's so amazing in that you're available like online, like someone in
Mm,
Florida can totally be working with the best of the best in Georgia.
yeah.
So for parents, I want you to know we are real teachers and
Mm,
we all have a degrees, we have certification, we have experience. And the state that you live in could possibly subsidize a tutor. So in the state of Florida, we have a step up program in the Gardner Scholarship. And those are $500 scholarships that are given to students who score 1 or 2 on their FSA and are being kept back in their grade. So the
mm,
state actually grants parents $500 to spend with qualified teachers. So definitely reach out to your classroom teacher. Homeschool families, definitely reach out to jpestutoring.com or ces.school for more information. And also, I wanted to let you know that for parents who are interested more like in maybe they don't want this private tutoring. I am offering a small class for struggling readers this summer, and it's going to be dependent on demand. But if you head to my website, you'll be able to get it put on the waiting list. So right now I'm gathering students, and as soon as I see like who is going to be on the roster, I have a class for struggling readers for this summer. So come check it out. It's all up on ces.school.
Okay, amazing. Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. I remember us talking about it too. So yeah, so before we go, we're about to go. I wanted to talk about one new thing we've done this year to improve student experience. So something that we've done, and I have a few things. I would say, let's see, one little thing I've done. I should have had a better answer prepared for all my own question, but I went to Pinterest and found a beautiful picture of it was a park in Oregon. And I was like, I'm using that for descriptive writing, because you have to have images, and sometimes you just get bored of like, okay, well, just think of something. Where's somewhere you've been? Okay, write about it. I was like, let me show an image of a place that neither of us have been to so that we can only look at it. We can only talk about what we see first in that picture. And so I was really trying to push her out of this just talking, like having dialogue, just having kids or characters talk at each other.
Yes.
And I said, why don't you talk about, don't be overly dramatic and just talk on and on about the description of a place, but look at what we see, sparkling emerald water. Do we see tall trees, or do we see, enormous cascading trees hovering over the sparkling river? There are ways to be descriptive without being corny. And
Yes.
I liked that because we spent a couple of days on it. I mean, it wasn't, you don't just write for an hour and you're done. Like, there's sort of let's put all compile all the words and phrases that we know, and then get on the thesaurus for some other words to replace big, nice, good. And then I'm like, dude, I'm having fun with this too, because sometimes, research papers and stuff, that's hard, but you can have a lot more fun. You have more fun if you spend a little bit of time picking what you like to teach instead of like what the state has told you to teach. So anyway, that's what I've done.
Great. It's so great. And it's so individualized, right? So each of my students have their own Google Classroom. They have their own Google Drive. They have their own Google slideshows of their running vocabulary that I work with them on. And it's so rewarding when you have that one person that you can work with, and you can tailor exactly what you have. So for me, my resources I've invested this year in like vocabulary, which is really a great tool. And Raz Kids. What else I have up here? I use Seesaw for my homeschool families to help document.
I'm going to show that up there. Raz Kids.
Yep, right. Raz Kids is fantastic. Vocabulary, IXL.
Yep, I use
Honestly, that is like, I can't believe everybody is not using that IXL. It just is so wonderful the way it progresses through what you have to learn, what the kids have to learn about.
I've used IXL with my adult English, Japanese learner, and some of it doesn't apply. But it's funny how you can go to a third grade activity and it's challenging for him. He might speak English, but then he says, "Oh yeah, there's an activity about prepositions," and I'm like, I didn't have to spend hours creating this. I just found it and looked through it, and I use that as a teaching tool. I say, hey, don't just fly through, don't just guess answers. Why is this question here? Okay, what do you think it means? Okay, you're right, but why are you right? Tell me what makes that correct. Tell me why the other one's not correct. I just talk a lot and make the kids talk. It's a big conversation.
And that's the difference between having a private tutor right there with you. Your child isn't just working through the lesson online. It's a real in-depth, rich experience.
Yeah. Nancy, thank you so much for coming on. In the broadcast, we'll still get to say like a last minute goodbye, but it's about to thunderstorm here, which means I may or may not lose power. So, but if you guys rewatched it, comment below. What are some things, first of all, parents, what are some things that you want to know from us or about other tutors? What are some things that you would ask if you could have a room full of tutors here? what would you ask them? And then also, if you're our tutor, what are some other tools that you guys have used this year that students actually like? You know, things that or things that have helped them. Just comment below because we want to know, don't
Yep.
we? All
Yes. And
right.
we want to know all your questions because we would love to, next time we meet, we can answer more of your questions out there.
All right. Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Jessica.